Hello and welcome to the NutriPsych podcast, where I give you bite-sized practical tips and advice on how to go from yo-yo dieting, emotional eating, and binge eating to achieving permanent weight loss results without counting calories, cutting out your favorite foods, or spending hours at the gym. My name is Helen and I'm a qualified nutrition consultant. After spending more than a decade and hundreds of pounds on diets, feeling ashamed and embarrassed about my body, losing and gaining the same weight like it was my job, I finally cracked the code to permanent weight loss results and lost more than 25 kilograms and kept it off. Now, it's become my mission to help you do the same so that you can say goodbye to yo-yo dieting, emotional eating, constant snacking, nighttime eating, and binge eating, all without feeling starved or deprived. If that sounds like something you are interested in, let's dive in. Hi everyone, welcome back to the NutriPsych podcast, and my name is Helen. I'm a nutrition consultant specializing in helping women stop yo-yo dieting, emotional eating, and binge eating, so that they can lose weight and keep it off for good. Today, I want to focus on something that many of my clients struggled with before they started working with me. In fact, some of them weren't even aware that they were struggling with this. And the problem we are talking about today is mindless eating. You might be thinking that's not something you struggle with, but hold on, don't hit the close button just yet. Let's kick off this episode by picturing this familiar scene in your brain. Think of what happens when you order a tub of popcorn at the movies. You bring it to your seat, you sit down, your hand continually travels from the tub to your mouth and back again, mostly without your awareness, because you are absorbed by the movie. You probably don't take much time to notice how the popcorn tastes. You just eat. And then, eventually, your hand reaches the bottom of the tub, roots around for more, and finds that there's none left. This can happen even when the popcorn doesn't even taste that good. Depending on the size of the popcorn bucket, you may have just eaten 1,200 calories, the equivalent of 2 personal pan pepperoni pizzas. Yet, you are left with a sense of wanting more. You are not feeling satisfied, as if you didn't even get enough. Now, I don't encourage you to count calories or restrict calories, but I think that's one of the easiest ways to show how mindless eating can be a problem. If we ate mindlessly only at the movies, it might not be as much of a problem. But many people tend to eat mindlessly most of the time, or at least more often than we'd like. So today, I want to share some tips and strategies that will really help you break these mindless overeating habits. I deliberately use the word habits because in most cases, these are repeated behavioral patterns that we have created and reinforced over time. And over time, these have become parts of our lives that we no longer give lots of thoughts about. Because our brains love habits and prefer to run on autopilot, so that our more conscious brain can focus on tasks that actually require our active attention and thinking. So in order to stop picking at food all day, mindless eating, constant snacking, grazing, whatever you want to call it, you first need some awareness of when, where, and why you're doing it. If you're struggling to identify situations for yourself, here are some common day-to-day scenarios. You might walk by the reception of your office and there's a sweets jar, so you grab a piece of chocolate. Or you're sitting next to a loved one who happens to be eating some crisps. You grab a few, and then a few more, and then more even though you're not hungry. Or you just habitually open the food cabinet every time you walk past it. Or finishing a large serving of pasta just because it's there. Or when you walk past a bakery, the aroma of those freshly baked goods just lures you in. For us humans, our eating habits are not as simple as eat when we're hungry and stop when we're full. We're surrounded by many influences and triggers to eat all the time, and our reactions are triggered rapidly, often without us giving it a second thought. Just the sight, smell, or thought of food can cause us to eat the cookies, chips, or snack bowl. And of course, emotions, thoughts, and other factors in the surroundings can contribute to our desire to eat. That's neuroscience. That's how our brain has associated these triggers with food. So what I want to share with you today may sound so cliché, but it's so important. So I want you to develop an awareness and be more mindful of your daily routine and habits. Before I go into details of how to actually put this into practice, how developing your awareness will help you overcome unplanned eating episodes, I want to demonstrate this with a story of a client, Lucy, who has kindly let me share her story. She came to work with me because she wanted to get her constant snacking habits under control. She lives alone and she works freelance, so there wasn't really any structure to her day. And all day long, she'd be reaching for snacks. Like when she was in front of the computer, she'd graze on snacks, or when she was taking a break, she'd grab a bigger snack. And that goes on all day long. She never really had any proper meals, as in breakfast, lunch, or dinner in the traditional sense. And in fact, most days, she couldn't even recall exactly what she'd eaten, because she wasn't paying that much attention. So after we implemented the 3-2-0 structure, one of the things that we did was to get her to not multitask when she eats, to pay more attention, and to create some structure and boundaries around meal times. We got her to move away from her desk and to schedule meal times. By having more structure around her eating and in her daily routine, this helped her become more mindful and intentional in her eating. And because there was more structure, and because she started having more solid, more robust meals in her daily routine, she no longer felt the need to constantly reach for food all day long. Because sitting down to eat more substantial meals signals to the brain that she'd eaten and she felt satisfied. So this is how we started this process with Lucy, and you can start a similar process for yourself. So first, we looked at her daily routine and identified that she was constantly reaching for snacks throughout the day. And in the first couple of weeks, we got her started on the 3-2-0 structure to re-establish her eating pattern and hunger and fullness cues. From there, we got her to take a couple of minutes 3 times a day to tune in with her body, like how she was feeling, thinking, or whether she was having any urges to grab snacks, and whether she was hungry. About a week in, she already told me that she noticed she was constantly thinking about food, but she also noticed that she wasn't hungry, but still had urges to grab food. And because she noticed those thoughts and urges, which allowed us to develop a more effective and specific coping plan. And as I mentioned, part of that included moving away from that work desk to a dining table and not multitasking when she eats. So as you can see, whether you overeat or not is not just about your eating. You don't just focus on the eating part of the pattern. You look at the whole day, your daily routine. Because everything you do, your thoughts, your actions, your emotions, and your urges, they are all interlinked. So now that I've gone through an example of how developing an awareness of your habits and patterns can change your eating habits and get you closer to your goals of stopping overeating and losing weight, I hope you're excited to know different ways you can implement this. In previous episodes, I've talked about the importance of planning your meals and planning your day in advance. In this training, I want you to become more intentional, more mindful, and more aware during the day. I can say with certainty that eating out of a bag or carton while sitting on the sofa watching Netflix is like a national pastime, but it's a scene that creates a perfect storm for mindless overeating. To break that habit, we need to really be intentional about what we do and don't do. When I shared Lucy's experience, we talked about structure. So here are some things that you can consider to make this work for you. When you have your snacks, any time of the day, but especially at night time, put a portion into a bowl or onto a plate and put the rest away. Sit at a table and fully enjoy your food. When you're done, you can return to whatever you're doing. Just don't multitask. Our bodies communicate with us all the time, giving us important input that we can respond to effectively as long as we learn to listen. If we don't pay attention, though, we remain out of touch with our hunger, our fullness, and more importantly, we don't get much enjoyment from the food. Mindlessness often leaves us feeling unsatisfied, even emotionally empty, and yet at the same time uncomfortably full. That's because when we eat mindlessly, we remain out of touch with the signals our bodies give us, and we can't recognize our usual triggers. Our thoughts affect our actions. When we react without considering what we are doing, we also end up feeling a loss of control and a lack of choice. Not being aware of our thoughts or where our cravings come from is often the cause of mindless eating. When we encounter a trigger to eat, whether it's by sight, smell, sound, or maybe just memories or social situations, we react with a thought, or maybe even many thoughts at the same time, many of which take place so quickly that we're unaware of them. An endless array of thoughts are capable of triggering a destructive cycle of overeating, whether a relatively small amount that's unintended or a full-on binge. We often don't even realize what we are telling ourselves. Things like, I'll just have one bite, or one bite won't hurt. Some of these thoughts are understandable. Others are just habits that we use to justify the first bite, then the next, and then many more. And that's why we don't just pay attention during our eating. We need to pay attention during other times of our day too, if you're serious about actually breaking the cycle. This process of developing this awareness of your habits is the middle way between mindless eating and restrictive dieting. And here are a few things that I want you to bear in mind. First, only you know what your mind and your body need. Remember, in order to achieve your weight loss goals or any health or wellness goals, you need both physically and mentally nourishing foods to prevent overeating. No one can tell you how hungry you feel or when you have eaten enough to feel full. Your friends don't know how much you need to eat to feel satisfied, and neither do popular diets. Developing this awareness and by paying more attention, tuning in with your body allows you to tap into your inner wisdom, informed by your hunger, satisfaction, and enjoyment. So you feel more empowered to make more flexible and conscious decisions for your food, your health, your weight, and your life, rather than just mindlessly repeating habits that don't serve you. Second, once you've identified your behavioral patterns, your thinking patterns and feelings, use these like data to help you make better decisions for yourself. They are not something you should punish yourself for or judge yourself for. They are just data. They are there to help and guide you. Rather than constantly being caught up in what you should or shouldn't eat, you'll learn to open yourself up to the way your body responds, where your eating habits or your desire for certain food comes from, and how you're really feeling, rather than the way you think your diet should be, or the way other people tell you it should be. Notice your thoughts, urges, cravings, and emotions without judging yourself. This awareness will help you make more informed decisions and help you plan your day, help you determine what food, how much to eat, based on your wants and needs. Third, there are no bad foods. As I've always emphasized, you shouldn't label food as good or bad, and you shouldn't cut foods out of your diet unless it's for medical reasons, such as allergies, intolerances, or Crohn's disease. A balanced diet is about incorporating different foods that can nourish your body, as well as makes you happy. When eating in moderation, having your favorite foods does not lead to weight gain or health problems. You really shouldn't feel guilty for eating, because it's what everybody needs to do to sustain life. Another benefit of having more awareness of your food is that you learn what is nourishing physically and mentally for you, your body and your mind. The more you restrict quote-unquote bad foods, the more you crave them, and the more difficult it is to stop overeating these foods. Next, relying on willpower and guilt leads to dissatisfaction and struggle. Instead of relying on willpower and guilt, understand that you need to develop an awareness and to get in touch with all the thoughts and emotions, positive and negative, that call up a desire to eat. There's nothing wrong with enjoying food or loving food. That's just part of life. Joy can be found in every bite. No one wants a life that's controlled by food obsession, counting calories, or feeling guilty about what you've eaten. The more negative judgments you have about your body or your food choices, the more inclined you are to overeat. Neuroscience has shown that we respond to positive signals, positive reinforcements a lot better than negative reinforcements such as guilt, self-hatred, or punishment. On that note, let me just put this into perspective. You always have a relationship with food and your body, whether it's a positive one or a negative one. Your life is so much more about what you eat and how much you eat, what you weigh, or how you look. Part of this process is being non-judgmental, which means not getting caught up in your thoughts or beliefs. That's why in the Stop Binge Eating program, I help my clients develop a relationship with food that's nourishing and in balance with the rest of their lives, so that rather than being in a constant battle with food or with their bodies, they experience a sense of freedom. And because you're not just developing an awareness of your eating, but in other aspects of your life too, you become happier and feel more fulfilled too, because those other areas of your life deserve more of your awareness, attention, and appreciation. So now that you know having more awareness is essential in your journey of stopping unhelpful behavior like mindless eating, emotional eating, or binge eating, what do you do now? We've talked about planning in advance, and today I want you to build on that. I want you to start taking a few minutes out in your day to notice your thoughts, your urges, and your cravings, and that will allow you to notice your trigger moments. As I said, your whole journey isn't just about food or about meal times. It's also about noticing what's happening within you and around you. For some people, this might mean that you become more aware when you do your grocery shopping, because I've had some clients who know that every time they hit the shop, they end up with a lot more snacks than they intended to buy, and they end up overeating. And deep down, they know that when they go shopping, they secretly want to buy all those snacks. So if that's you, develop some structure and boundaries around that. Or if you know that you just have to grab something to snack on whenever you walk past the food cabinet, think about what measures you can put in place. As I've said time and time again, the process isn't focused on food. It's also about everything else you do during the day. So you need to tune in with your body, your thoughts, your actions, and any related behavior, so that you can stop this pattern. So here's my action task for you for this episode. When you are making your plan for tomorrow, I want you to also schedule a minute 3 times tomorrow to stop everything else and tune in with your body. So that's it for now. I hope you found this episode helpful. These are just a few strategies that you can implement. We dive a lot deeper into these strategies, preventive measures for different scenarios or behavioral patterns inside of the Stop Binge Eating program. In fact, we've dedicated 2 whole modules inside the Stop Binge Eating program to creating structures, routines, and boundaries, and helping our clients stop nighttime eating and constantly snacking, so that they are equipped with the right tools and strategies to make this work for their specific situations. So if you want a step-by-step process to stop mindless eating, constantly snacking, yo-yo dieting, or emotional eating, don't forget to check out the Stop Binge Eating program at helenwang.co.uk/SBEP. I've covered a lot in this mini training, so check out the episode notes at helenwang.co.uk/nutrition resources, and I'll talk to you again soon. Thanks so much for tuning in today. Dive into the show notes for this episode at helenwang.co.uk/nutrition resources. If you've enjoyed this episode of the NutriPsych podcast, I invite you to check out the Stop Binge Eating program, which gives you access to a proven step-by-step roadmap with key strategies and skills that guide you from struggling with yo-yo dieting, emotional eating, and binge eating to achieving permanent weight loss. Check out the Stop Binge Eating program at helenwang.co.uk/SBEP.